vegan leader, real peace giver.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
As you cannot possibly cultivate humility, as you cannot possibly cultivate love, so also virtue cannot be cultivated, and there is great beauty in that. Please continue watching for the shared enlightening perceptions of Jiddu Krishnamurti, vegetarian.
Two worlds can meet when speaking the same language. Namaste is a good way to connect with the locals of inspiring India. It means hello in Hindi, one of the official languages of the country. Divine viewers, I'm Gayatri. The respectful people of India are touched by your good-hearted nature, thus making the world a better place. May you preserve this quality through the compassionate vegan lifestyle in heaven's blessings. Welcome to Freedom Through Self-Knowledge from the Book of Life by Jiddu Krishnamurti, vegetarian, on Words of Wisdom. Jiddu Krishnamurti was an internationally renowned spiritual figure born in 1895 in southern India, who to this present day is still considered one of the greatest thinkers and spiritual teachers of all time. He did not proclaim any religion, sect or country, and always pointed out that we are first humans and do not need to identify with nationality or religious beliefs. From 1929 until his death in 1986, Jiddu Krishnamurti travelled throughout the world talking to large audiences, individuals, scientists, religious figures, writers, philosophers, educators, as well as giving radio and television interviews. Krishnamurti's message emphasized the great need of a radical change for humankind. His deep insights on the nature of the human mind enabled him to deliver his talks in a fresh and direct way, making audience members feel like he was addressing them personally. Krishnamurti's only concern was to set humanity absolutely, unconditionally free. His vision was for humans to have a more profound understanding of themselves and of the art of living so as to bring about a new and peaceful generation. A compassionate vegetarian, the beloved Krishnamurti was also a founder of schools in India, the United States and the United Kingdom. They are based on a holistic global outlook with a concern for humanity and the environment and their interconnected relationship. The schools were established to be places where the existential concerns of life could be explored freely and responsibly. In addition, Jiddu Krishnamurti was an author of numerous books. Among them are The Awakening of Intelligence, The Urgency of Change, Freedom from the Known, and The Flight of the Eagle. Today, we will read a selection from Jiddu Krishnamurti's book, The Book of Life, where the teacher shares insights on the matter of true freedom and virtue, as well as the roots of our challenges in experiencing them. Learning has no past. Wisdom is something that has to be discovered by each one, and it is not the result of knowledge. Knowledge and wisdom do not go together. Wisdom comes when there is the maturity of self-knowing. Without knowing oneself, order is not possible, and therefore there is no virtue. Now, learning about oneself and accumulating knowledge about oneself are two different things. A mind that is acquiring knowledge is never learning. What it is doing is this: it is gathering to itself information, experience as knowledge, and from the background of what it has gathered, it experiences, it learns, and therefore it is never really learning, but always knowing, acquiring. Learning is always in the active present. It has no past. The moment you say to yourself, "I have learned," it has already become knowledge, and from the background of that knowledge you can accumulate, translate, but you cannot further learn. It is only a mind that is not acquiring, but always learning. It is only such a mind that can understand this whole entity that we call the me, the self. I have to know myself, the structure, the nature, the significance of the total entity. But I can't do that burdened with my previous knowledge, with my previous experience, or with a mind that is conditioned, for then I'm not learning. I'm merely interpreting, translating, looking with an eye that is already clouded by the past. Authority prevents learning. We generally learn through study, through books, through experience, or through being instructed. Those are the usual ways of learning. We commit to memory what to do and what not to do, what to think and what not to think, how to feel, how to react. Through experience, through study, through analysis, through probing, through introspective examination, we store up knowledge as memory, and memory then responds to further challenges and demands from which there is more and more learning. What is learned is committed to memory as knowledge, and that knowledge functions whenever there is a challenge or whenever we have to do something. Now, I think there is a totally different way of learning, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But to understand it and to learn in this different way, you must be completely rid of authority. Otherwise, you will merely be instructed and you will repeat what you have heard. That is why it is very important to understand the nature of authority. Authority prevents learning. Learning that is not the accumulation of knowledge as memory. Memory always responds in patterns. There is no freedom. A man who is burdened with knowledge, with instructions, who is weighed down by the things he has learned, is never free. He may be most extraordinarily erudite, but his accumulation of knowledge prevents him from being free, and therefore he is incapable of learning. To destroy is to create. To be free, you have to examine authority, the whole skeleton of authority, tearing to pieces the whole dirty thing. And that requires energy, actual physical energy, and also it demands psychological energy. For the energy is destroyed, is wasted when one is in conflict. So when there is the understanding of the whole process of conflict, there is the ending of conflict. There is abundance of energy. Then you can proceed, tearing down the house that you have built throughout the centuries, and that has no meaning at all. You know, to destroy is to create. We must destroy, not the buildings, not the social or economic system. this comes about daily, but the psychological, the unconscious and the conscious defenses, securities that one has built up rationally, individually, deeply and superficially. We must tear through all that to be utterly defenseless, because you must be defenseless to love and have affection. Then you see and understand ambition, authority, and you begin to see when authority is necessary and at what level. The authority of the policeman and no more. Then there is no authority of learning, no authority of knowledge, no authority of capacity, no authority that function assumes and which becomes status. To understand all authority of the gurus, of the masters and others requires a very sharp mind, a clear brain, not a muddy brain, not a dull brain. Virtue has no authority. Can the mind be free from authority, which means free from fear, so that it is no longer capable of following? If so, this puts an end to imitation, which becomes mechanical. After all, virtue, ethics, is not a repetition of what is good. The moment it becomes mechanical, it ceases to be virtue. Virtue is something that must be from moment to moment, like humility. Humility cannot be cultivated, and a mind that has no humility is incapable of learning. So virtue has no authority. The social morality is no morality at all. It's immoral because it admits competition, greed, ambition, and therefore society is encouraging immorality. Virtue is something that transcends morality. Without virtue, there is no order, and order is not according to a pattern, according to a formula. A mind that follows a formula through disciplining itself to achieve virtue creates for itself the problems of immorality. An external authority that the mind objectifies apart from the law as God, as moral, and so on, becomes destructive when the mind is seeking to understand what real virtue is. We have our own authority as experience, as knowledge, which we are trying to follow. There is this constant repetition, imitation, which we all know. Psychological authority, not the authority of the law. The policeman who keeps order, the psychological authority which each one has, becomes destructive of virtue, because virtue is something that is living, moving. As you cannot possibly cultivate humility, as you cannot possibly cultivate love, so also virtue cannot be cultivated, and there is great beauty in that. Virtue is non-mechanical, and without virtue there is no foundation for clear thinking. The old mind is bound by authority. The problem then is it possible for a mind that has been so conditioned, brought up in innumerable sects, religions, and all the superstitions, fears, to break away from itself and thereby bring about a new mind? The old mind is essentially the mind that is bound by authority. I'm not using the word authority in the legalistic sense, but by that word I mean authority as tradition, authority as knowledge, authority as experience, authority as the means of finding security and remaining in that security, outwardly or inwardly, because, after all, that is what the mind is always seeking, a place where it can be secure, undisturbed, Such authority may be the self-imposed authority of an idea or the so-called religious idea of God, which has no reality to a religious person. An idea is not a fact. It is a fiction. God is a fiction. You may believe in it, but still it is a fiction. But to find God, you must completely destroy the fiction, because the old mind is the mind that is frightened, is ambitious, is fearful of death, of living, and of relationship, and it is always consciously or unconsciously seeking a permanency, security. For more information on Jiddu Krishnamurti and his teachings, please visit jkrishnamurti.org and kfoundation.org. Wise viewers, we appreciate your kind presence for today's words of wisdom. Please join us again tomorrow for part 2 of this program. Coming up next is Croatia, a crossroads of precious cultures, part 3 of 3, right after noteworthy news. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television for more uplifting programming. In God's splendor, may upliftment of the soul help us to discover the gift of self-knowing, which only we can give to ourselves.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule et suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visiten suprememastertv.com/schedule y suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Műsoraink sok nyelvet tartalmaznak. Kérjük, tekintse meg itt suprememastertv.com/schedule és suprememastertv.com/WOW.
Vegan, true human.